can start whenever you're ready. It's already started.
It's already started?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the questions we all want the answers to, girl.
All right, are you ready? And we continue into June with math and other, small things that we maybe didn't get done because we have lightened up because of Memory Masters, which is you're trying to achieve memorizing the whole year of classical conversations. Sorry, we're gonna pause. Cut that out.
Did you just kill a spider on me?
I did. I
Wait,
cut it off.
That's just life because we live on a farm. I think you just leave that in the video.
Oh my gosh. I was just like, I can't.
At least you didn't smack me, just there was a mosquito. Okay, carry on, yeah. So Memory Masters.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, so there's you can memorize for the entire year.
All right, let's go.
Hello friends, welcome home. I'm Jamie James and I have the pleasure of being joined with my husband, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
He's so awesome. We are doing a very special interview today about our homeschooling journey. Craig's gonna ask me some questions and we are going to do a weekly series interviewing friends and dear people to us that we know who also homeschool. So this is just a kickoff of our answers first. So here we go.
Yeah, and this all started because I was riding with Jamie over to Prineville. I think we were over in Eastern Oregon, but we're near Prineville. And I'm like, hey, you should really do interviews with people about the homeschool journey, the homeschool experience. And I was just started mock interviewing her down the road. And I've got this camera and she's like, this is not happening right now. This is not happening right now. I'm like, it's happening right now. So I just asked her questions and it just spurred this idea. What if we interviewed people who are doing homeschool? And there's so many different personalities out there of different types of and ways to homeschool. We're one personality. There's so many other personalities, so many other methods and ways of people homeschool their kids.
Totally.
And I was so impressed by talking to Jamie. I'm like, you have to do this YouTube idea of helping people, because you've often said this phrase of, if it's helpful to me, it might be helpful to others.
Well, and the truth is the interviews stemmed more even than just what Craig's little idea, out of this idea that anybody's input, anybody's experience helped us along the journey.
Yeah.
It gave us ideas in what curriculum to use, in what worked well for others. It encouraged us when we weren't doing so well or going through a really tough season in the homeschool journey. So I feel like personally, other people's experience has been a big driving force in our own homeschooling. So I'm excited to kick this off so that you also can enjoy hearing other stories as well.
Yeah, and this is getting beyond just our community, but expanding our community. Maybe this is helpful to other people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to the burning questions. We want to know the answers.
Burning questions.
I don't know. But I do have a piece of paper with all the questions that Jamie has prepared. And of course, she asked me to do the interviews, so there might be a couple spins, couple curveballs. I like open-ended questions. Tell me more about.
That's okay. I like you.
Okay. Well, at the time of this video, what are the ages of our kids?
So our kids are currently twin 15-year-olds, a 11-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Okay. How long have you been homeschooling?
You think I'd be prepared since I wrote these questions. We have been homeschooling in total about 12 years. We started when the girls were about 4, and it was, really light, easygoing as preschoolers. But yep, 12 years.
Awesome. What curriculum do you use currently, and what have you used over the years?
All right, well, we've used a lot of curriculum over the years. We have always done classical conversations. That is our main curriculum. And we started that actually when the girls were 4, and they would just play Legos on the floor and they would just listen to the audio. And that was what I qualified as classical conversations. We didn't actually even go to a community at that time. And once we did start going, we were commuting quite a ways. So we just decided to start and see what it was like. And they started repeating things that they were hearing, even though they were playing. And so we felt like, okay, this is kind of cool. Let's keep going. So the classical conversations method, which is a classical method, is that they memorize a lot of stuff in many different subjects, 7 subjects specifically, from ages 4 years old all the way until 12. And 9 to 12, they start writing and doing an English grammar program in addition to that. And then from that point, they go into what we call the challenge years, which is their junior high and high school years. And they really dig into taking those facts and things they've memorized and those tools that they've learned in writing and then applying it. So it has been very rewarding. That's one thing we have stuck with throughout the years.
Oh my. I do remember the girls learning their timeline song, and it was like, this is my timeline, this is my time. I'm like, oh boy.
In your sleep.
Of course, I memorized it too, parts of it.
Right, of course.
Yeah. It's so funny. Well, how did you come across classical conversations or the homeschool curriculum you're using? Was it a friend? Did you look it up? Or why'd you choose it?
So it was my friend, Debbie Noble. She introduced me, and I'm hoping that I will soon introduce you to her because she's a wealth of knowledge. But really, we were just doing, like I said, the little things like counting, talking about the weather. Preschool is so fun and easy. And she's like, come check it out. So we went and checked it out for the day. It was a brand new community that year. And we just saw how it was going, and then we just thought on it, and I was like, well, why not give that a try? It's community. We can do stuff once a week together. And I also saw the beauty and the relief that they did a science project and an art project every week together. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. If nothing else, we're getting that one solid thing that's really building that we can't do at home. Because let's be honest, I wasn't going to bring in all of those materials and try to undertake that myself. So
nice. So it was a friend that invited you to check it out. Yeah, it was a friend.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. How would you describe your homeschooling style? Are you structured, super detailed throughout the day? Are you easygoing? Like, are you an unschooler?
I'm not an unschooler. I think it's funny that you're asking me this question because I love to hear other people's responses, and I'm like, what am I? I would say that I like structure, but I'm kind of easygoing. So I have a high expectation we achieve things, but we don't always do things rigorously like this time each day we're going to get up and we're going to achieve these things. We don't do that. So I would say I'm probably a mix. Like I go with the flow. What does each day have? What is it bringing? We have some things built into our schedule to bring structure, but I'm not easygoing like, oh, I don't care what my kids are doing or it'll be fine. It'll come to them. I do like to add some things to it. So.
Yeah. Okay. I know the answers to some of these questions, so I'm like, is she answering the way I would answer these?
Well, how would
this is mutual accountability right here. Like, if she doesn't say, I'll give you like 3 blinks, like that she's lying, or that's not as good.
I'm not going to lie.
She's not gonna lie, but maybe it's not as good as you. You might embellish a little bit. No, you'll tell the truth. Kidding. All right, I'm never gonna be asked to do an interview again.
We might edit this out.
We might.
Kidding.
All right. I think I asked this, how did you get started? But maybe I should ask again, how did you get started in education, and why is that a passion for you, for our kids?
Yeah, so actually how we got started doing homeschooling is we had the twins, were 4 or 3-ish, and we had our son. And at that time, we could not afford for me to go back to school, go back to work, which was subbing. And I had substituted up till the point of having my son. And then it was like all of my paycheck would go to them being in preschool and in childcare for a diaper. How many of you know about that? And so we were like, well, let's just do this at home. So I actually started watching kids in our home to supplement our income. Craig will love that.
I did.
And we did some homeschool material during the day with the girls. We did some preschool stuff. So that's how we got started.
I think like
going.
your background, when we met, Jamie was on the path to become an educator. Your dad was a teacher, your grandma was a teacher, and so you were just passionate about following suit, and you were in school to become a teacher. And when we had twins in college. We were married, nothing scandalous. Just kidding, but no, we had kids young. We had kids during college, so it brought another level of challenge to that. Like,
sure.
Especially having twins in college, but we did finish and we pushed through. And I just remember you having that teaching background and wanting to go into the workforce. And actually, I remember, like, so going back to the beginning, you didn't even want to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, you wanted to be in the workforce career. And so we definitely looked at the childcare option of like, what would it mean to put our kids in childcare and for us to work. And there was a childcare in our neighborhood right around the corner, and we just researched them, like, because it would be really convenient. We could drop them off, pick them up at the end of the day, and it was $2,400 a month, but they'd give us a multi-kid discount, so it would have been $2,200.
Yeah, $200 discount.
$2,200. And I remember just like crunching the numbers, because you didn't even have a job in teaching yet. You were just subbing, and it was like $100 more a month that we would have made for someone else to have our kids for 10 hours a day, before care and after care. And it just did, I mean, at the end of the day, like, yes, would have an extra $100 been good, but we actually thought, you know what, this is a blessing that you're able to stay home. We were on one income at the time. And so those were some tough years. You were in home care with other kids, plus our kids.
Craig worked out of town often or worked long hours. So it was a lot up to me. I'm sure some of you are experiencing that as well. So,
Well, let's go to our next question. What's a typical schedule for you, like during the day, maybe the week, like, or how do you forecast seasons even?
Yeah, so our schedule right now is a little crazy, I would say. Our girls participate in speech and debate, as well as doing the classical conversations, and then they are in a math class that we travel to. A sweet lady who homeschooled her own kids, has a math background, and is willing to teach other kids as a blessing to the families. It's been a treat. So anyways, but with that causes us, we also go to piano. So we are out of the home a lot. We leave the house 4 of the 5 days of the week to go do some of this stuff. Not the full day, but a lot of it. And so our schedule always starts around 8 a.m. and we get going. I like to do exercise with the kids, but you know how that goes. Sometimes they're like unwilling or just, having a hard morning. So I'm flexible with that. And then we usually get started with math or sentence diagramming or whatever. So everybody has their own thing. And we usually the girls go until 4 p.m. at night. They're freshmen though, so I feel like they have a little bit more weight that they're carrying. So anyway, that's our crazy schedule.
Tell me a little more about how you fit things in the cracks. Like, I know just from hearing your schedule, you get up and go and you're into town where we have piano, where we have math, and so you're supplementing with other people who are experts in those areas. How you use your community to for kids to do homework in different places?
Well, so we when we travel in for math, we do math twice a week, and then afterwards we go over to a friend's house, and either myself or another parent sits with them and helps them get their homework done and just make sure there's no questions. So we fit that in, and then by the time they're done, it's time to pick up our student, and it's just trying to work with others. I say it in another video, I'm a huge advocate for pairing one activity with a habit with an activity. So we're always listening to books on tape, or we're always going over homework while we're driving. I mean, there's always something happening, and I try to pair those so that we can ensure that they get done.
Tell me about seasons. So there's days, weeks, and how do you look at your seasons? So we're in the middle of the fall right now. Mid-October is when end of October is when we're shooting this. But how do you look at the seasons? So fall, winter, summer, and what's I mean, even forecasting what's coming up in the spring with the kids in debates.
Yeah. So right now it's not as busy as it will be in spring. But I just try to take the season and I map out on a calendar where does everything fit and when are we going to, I schedule in when we're going to have downtime and when we're going to do chores, because it does get full so easily and there's so many good things you have to say no sometimes. So I think that in my seasons, I try to go 6 weeks at a time. And every 6 weeks, I, make small tweaks and adjustments in our daily schedule of the things that we're able to tweak. And then the larger things, we work hard and then we rest well, So we just try to get that rest in because we know that we're going and that there's things that are important to us, so we try to get those done as well.
Yeah. So when do you end homeschool? Like, what's the end of homeschool with your community, and then when do you say? Do homeschoolers get to like cut off a little early, or do you? Do you make them do homeschool all summer? Like, what kind of teacher are you? What kind of schoolmaster?
I would like to think that I would do summer school as well, but we don't always. My kids are nicer to each other when they have a little routine, a little expectation. So we usually try to do something like math or reading or something that's like have to get done in the morning, so they're not just free ranging it all the time. But honestly, they go until the end of May for our classical conversations group, and then we continue into June with math and other small things that we maybe didn't get done because we have lightened up because of Memory Masters, which is they're trying to achieve memorizing the whole year of classical conversations. Sorry, we're gonna pause, cut that out.
Did you just kill a spider on me?
I did. I cut it off.
That's just life because we live on a farm. I think you just leave that in the video.
Oh my gosh, I was just like, I can't.
At least you didn't like smack me, like just. There was a mosquito. Okay, carry on. Yeah. So Memory Masters.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay. So there's you can memorize for the entire year the memory work, and so that takes a little bit more time and effort and focus. And so then if we have lightened up on math, or inevitably by the end of the year we're all tired, and so we've lightened a little of our load to accomplish some tasks, and then we go back to it to finish off our year. And the same thing would be like for the older girls. With debate, we might lighten something else up in order to get through those tournament season, which starts after January.
Mm-hmm. So you don't ever just hit play on School's Out for Summer?
Well, I probably do in June, but
June would be your
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what the school schedule is for public schools. Mm-hmm. You take a little break, but is there educational things you do over summer, or is it just completely?
No, like I said, I never want my kids to have the free for all because they're crazy. And so we always are doing something. We might not be doing a ton of traveling educational stuff. I would still qualify our farm as educational. So we have, just a little homestead with some animals. And library reading plans. So we're always busy in the summer doing those things. But that's a learning as well. Like they're learning hands-on, real life practical application in other areas.
Yeah. So this question's funny because I look at it and I'm like, we put a little note in there when we made these questions, and I'm like, that's so funny you put the note in there.
I know.
So what would your kids say about their experience? And we said, we don't care.
Because we don't. And the reason why we don't care, let's just give you the caveat, is that sometimes when things are hard, your kids just want to quit, or they don't like what they're doing right in the moment. But we have the goal, and we have the commission actually of God to give our kids what we feel is the best for them and what we feel like we're supposed to do for them. And so sometimes they have to do it even if they don't like it. It's a good character building. And how many of us in the workforce or as adults, there's many adulting things I don't want to do. We have to do them anyway. So, and that's never ending. But what would my kids say? I think my kids are enjoying overall. Wouldn't you say? I think they're enjoying their schooling overall. So there's always small things, right? That like the character needs a little help, fine tuning, or like just the follow through. But I think they're enjoying what we do. So
yeah, we haven't really had any. It took years before we had comparison. Like whereas like if you're in school, you I remember growing up, like we'd compare to other families.
Yeah.
But our kids were kind of, because they're homeschooled, they're shielded a couple more years before they start really comparing. I mean, we go to church, there's other families in our community. So there's a little bit of comparison, like what do they do, what do we do? Like, hey, they don't have to do chores, or they don't have to be up at this time. And so there's some comparison, but I think overall, like our kids, they enjoy what they're doing.
Well, and we'd create the comparison as well. I remember when we lived in town, and the school bus would come by, and the kids were still sleeping, right? And I would wake him up and be like, the bus is here, it's time to go, wake up, wake up, wake up. And they would be like, Mom.
Like, but for real though, if you were in school, you would be up and at 'em. And I mean, the stereotypes are real. They did do a lot of their schoolwork in pajamas, and I'm like, shouldn't they like at least dress for success?
Yeah, and you know what? Now when they're in pajamas, we're like, go right ahead, honey, because we know you're going nonstop the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So.
This is my favorite question. So this one is a good question as well. What has been your greatest challenge with homeschooling, and how have you overcome it? Greatest challenge.
I think that I don't know what my greatest challenge is. I could say one of my greatest challenges is my selfishness and wanting to have my own time and wanting to not have to do the hard thing and wanting to let somebody else deal with the bad attitudes or the character when we've hit it, because it seems like, every year somebody's working something out, and sometimes I don't want to be the person who has to do it all. I'm wearing the many hats, and sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm the chauffeur and I'm the cleaner, like the house cleaner and the cook, and I school the kids and I discipline the kids and the principal, whatever. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, enough, I don't want it. And so that has been one challenge. I don't know if it's my greatest, but that was a difficult thing to overcome, I think, earlier on. And sometimes it'll pop back up in different seasons. It's not like it was one and done. Sometimes I still have that selfishness, and then I have to remind myself the time is short. It is so fleeting. We literally only have 4.5 years left, or 3.5 years left with our girls before they've gone to a higher education.
2.5. They're 15.
Well, they're freshmen, so.
Okay, well, yeah.
So anyway, so potentially, I mean, they could graduate early if they wanted to, but really, like, to see them at this stage now, I'm like, it was a lot harder when they were all little, because I felt like it was the grind nonstop, and you were working a lot when they were really little. And so that season, it was hard to have perspective. But now that I have my girls who are older, I feel like the perspective is like, oh my gosh, like, look at what they have become, look at what they are doing. And the sacrifice was well worth it. Like, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. This is a lot of hard work. Well, let's talk about the return on investment. What do you find most rewarding about homeschooling?
I honestly feel like having a great conversation with our kids. Like, they want to talk to us. They like us. They have conversation with us about things that, I would never have thought about, because especially speech and debate too, I think the combination of both the classical learning where they get this solid foundation and they're challenged to think critically about things, and they actually have things in their brain to think critically about. And then this debate that's made us research things that I never would have researched in addition to all of that other stuff is crazy. Like, we can have the most excellent conversations, and I don't know, it brings my heart joy to see who they are, because the goal is not to raise children, right? It's to raise adults, as we have often said. And we are doing that. Like, they are young adults, and I feel confident that they will be successful adults they go out into the world.
Yeah. I think that's important. Like, we're raising adults. We're
Yeah.
raising adults to go out into the world. Like, we didn't homeschool to insulate our kids from the world. We actually are homeschooling to prepare them for the world.
Right.
We're not fearfully, tucked away in our house trying to homeschool our kids. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to give them the best education and prepare them to be adults. Like you said, the adult conversations, it is impressive. Our kids have so many different, they have different personalities.
Oh, totally.
And watching them interact with other adults, I remember as a teenager, I would not want to talk to an adult. Like, I'd kind of like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go hang out with my peers. I just want to go mess around and do something else. I don't want to talk to an adult. Like,
right.
Of course, mom and dad's friends are like, hey, tell us about this. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. But watching our kids be able to engage with the conversations, I think it's a proud moment. And like you said, like, we're having conversations, but we also see them have conversations with others that we're like, that's cool that they're able to carry a conversation confidently. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that some of that's attributed to like speech and debate, and just being able to, I don't know where they would get that from.
Well, in classical conversations, they're presenting weekly. As they go into the older ages, the whole goal is for them to be able to share and teach others. So they begin to take on more of that. So they're constantly presenting, and they have to present actually in different modes, which is one of the challenges my girls are facing right now. Everything is like debate mode. And they can't do that. Like, right, if you're presenting a paper that you've just written, then you're giving that as a written presentation, not as a let me argue and persuade you why.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So if you could go back to the beginning and start over, what would you change? What would you keep the same?
I would not change anything, I don't think. Other than the vision, to be able to see like what we were doing, like, and be able to forecast that like a little bit better, going and seeing older kids who are in the process ahead of us, like way sooner. That would have been an encouragement that we weren't off, right? Or that we weren't doing something wrong. But I think that all of the good stuff and the hard stuff has been such a benefit to us that I don't know that I would change anything now that I'm here, right? I remember so many times that I was like, oh, is this worth it? Oh, this is so hard, in that season, getting through different time points, in our timeline of homeschooling. But as they have gotten older now, I can look back and say, okay, it was all worth it. And doing the hard things, it produces the good fruit. So
tell me a little more about like how would a person go about catching a vision for the future, like of their kids?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of like working with families. We've worked with kids and families for years. And I know a lot of families who have homeschooled over the years, and just in peripheral, I hear their stories. A lot of people will homeschool during the preschool years and then maybe into up to third grade. And then it's like, okay, I've given enough effort to this, and then they'll move on to either public school, private school, some kind of other option.
Right.
How would a person catch the vision? Because now we have freshmen homeschoolers.
Right. And I think I would just say, if you are someone who has had to make that transition, it's okay. You can just do the best you can, and you will be okay. Because I feel like we just do our best effort, and the Lord does the rest. But I would say with catching the vision, I see such a difference. And if you could visit classrooms, if possible. I don't know if the public schools are allowing that anymore, but that's really kind of where I saw the differentiation between what we were doing and what was happening. Is I was in the public school and I saw what was happening, and then being able to be in the classroom with my kids or go and visit other classes. And that's really where I saw that vision forecasted. As my kids got older, then I started going into classes of like the high schoolers who are older than us, and just seeing what was coming, and then it really helped me formulate, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. With Debbie, her daughter is like 4 years older than ours, and so seeing how she was developing and who she was becoming, and it was like, oh, that makes all the difference. Like it helps you see, okay, this is why we're continuing to choose what we're continuing to choose. And that might be something look different for everybody, but I hope that there's someone around you that you could look to and say, how are they doing what they're doing? And what is the fruit? What is being produced out of it? Because there is patterns. I think now we have enough resource and enough different curriculum and whatnot out that somebody could pattern after you or pattern after the next at this point, and see similar fruit anyway. Obviously there's different personalities and different things that come in that would maybe change that, but overall you're going to see what your child may look like, in the future, I guess, if that makes sense. Like just looking at the next.
Yeah. So maybe finding people that have raised their kids in homeschool.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't grow up homeschool yourself, you don't really have anything to compare it against.
Absolutely.
So trying to find both perspectives. And if you're doing that on the starting end with a preschooler, or with you have a 2-year-old and you're thinking about homeschooling, or if you're already in it, what are you mapping out that course? Like, are we going the long haul? Are we doing
right?
What are we doing to get our kids educated?
Right. And just seeing the next, but if you can keep looking up, I mean, at least the one step ahead of you, wherever you're at, look ahead. But if you're able to see the whole gamut, the more, the better.
Yeah. And I think you had invited me early on to a couple, with the program we're a part of, the community we're a part of, it's nationwide, but it's got they have I don't know if it was challenge nights or something where you would come see, here's the vision for parents, here's the vision for your kids for future, and there was always a 1 or 2 kids from those upper ages that would present, so you have a little bit of hey, here's a snapshot of what and I don't know if that's a model student, obviously probably is, but somebody presenting at one of those nights so we can see, here's what your kids could do in the future.
Yeah, it's called the Windows into Challenge for Classical Conversations, and I don't even know if it's a model student, it's whoever you have in your class, right? You're like, hey, so-and-so, come with me, or hey, my own child, come with me, right? Who can I pull?
That's probably more real. You're doing this, voluntold.
Right, voluntold, that's right. But yes, and I'm sure that you can jump into any class wherever you're at, and something else, if you are choosing something else, jump in and just see what's happening and how things are unfolding, for sure.
Question for you. How do you balance the different roles you play, or the plates that you spin? So you are a mom, you're a wife, you're a teacher, you also work a couple jobs. So how do you balance, or is balance even a thing?
Well, I'll let you know when I find out. No, I try. It's so hard, right? I feel like really it's whichever thing is kind of struggling more, you pick it up and then you just do your best, right? But the number one thing that has helped me in the last couple years is block scheduling my time. So I just say this set number of hours in each day is dedicated to just homeschooling my kids. Phone is muted. They give my 101%, 100% attention. And then right after lunch, I have a couple hours where I answer emails and I check any phone calls or texts that come in, and my work hour, and then I do some tutoring online at that time. And then I have another section that's the homework, clean the house, make the dinner, check in with the kids and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, check on the animals, all of those things fall under that. So blocking my time, I know there's some people who do not necessarily care for that because it seems too overwhelming, but for me, it's helpful to know every single plate gets a little bit of attention every single day, or most days. So if I can just dedicate, okay, I know that right now it is driving me crazy that this video hasn't uploaded, but I will give it attention at X time, or I know that I need to connect with this new family for classical conversations, but I can't do that right now because this is my time with my kids. And so then, but I know it's on the to-do list when I get to that time. So I feel like I drop things less often, as long as it stays, on my calendar, keep going on my radar. And then I set alarms, a lot of alarms, right? Or reminders for things like pay the bills or whatever. So that's.
Are you a handwritten planner, or are you a digital person, or is it a combination of both?
Oh, it's totally a combination. I feel like I love the handwritten, but I've lost the handwritten before. Where did I put that? Whoa!
Oh my!
And
it's next to the cup of coffee.
Right, next to the cup of coffee, wherever that is. Thanks, babe.
I'm for you.
He's totally for me. Well, but I do like having the calendar that's digital, that we can share things. Like we know what the big things coming up on the schedule are, like the baseball games or, whatever. It's helpful to have both. So I just keep my calendar on my phone, and then I have my written like every single day. And I fill this out on Sundays. I just fill out every day and what the major blocks are. And then as I come to that day, oh, don't forget, you need to do this. Or if you notice like, behind the garbage really needs to be scrubbed. Okay, that's going under my housework time, like on that day if I have time or whatever it might be. But then I can fill in those gaps as we come into the week, and it's the working schedule. So I always have a working schedule. It's never like everything is set and structured, and I know when things are always going to be there. So
yeah. Well, there's one more question, and so the question is, if you were talking to someone that's just starting out, what would be one piece of advice you would give them, or two pieces of advice? What would you tell someone starting out?
I would say trust the process. Do not be discouraged by things that feel like failure, because often failure gives us the greatest reward or the greatest feedback and helps us grow the most. And find a community, find people who can support you and encourage you and give you, I don't know, like, hey, I'm in that same, my son is doing the same exact thing. Can you imagine?
My son too.
Your son too.
Oh my gosh. Your son, my son?
But I think those three things, like, just stay the course and the look ahead. I think that's part of probably staying the course and like being encouraged that you're not behind, but then also the community piece. Like obviously we've mentioned speech and debate and classical conversations. We're in those things, even though it's more effort, sometimes more work, like another day to the house, it has brought so much value, so much fruit, so much encouragement, like that softening of our rough edges and helping us to become better people and giving us accountability. I think you can't go wrong if you have a community. So stick with it, get that encouragement, and just know that, you know what, even when it's hard in the moment, you're gonna get through it. It's only a season. And just remember how much more time you have. When the girls turned 15, I added up how many weeks we had left with them in the house, and I cried. And I think that if we're honest, if you added up the number of weeks that you had, you would be shocked. Like, this time is so fleeting. And so it's worth, in my opinion, every single moment that you can give to them, pouring into them. And sometimes it's crazy, and sometimes it's like just all over the board. I mean, the couple jobs, like we're just fitting things in where we can fit them, but I would do it all over again. And I would just keep pushing, because to see the end result, or I mean, we're not there yet, but just to see where we're headed and where we are now, I'm like very much encouraged. So please be encouraged as well.
Yeah. Well, I know this isn't on the script here, but I know in the beginning I wasn't really on board 100% with with homeschooling, and I was like, is this even for us? I mean, is it like, I know anyone can do it, but is it? I don't know if we can even do it. And just over the years, watching you just work hard for our kids, work hard for our family, I just am so proud of you. And and even chatting with you earlier last year when we were dreaming about like maybe we should like do something on YouTube that helps people, because it is kind of like, yeah, we're in a good community, but there's still a lot of like just trying to figure this stuff out as you go. And
Yeah.
I'm talking with you and I just hear like your wealth of knowledge coming through, like in our conversation, like, wow, you know your stuff. And then Jamie also does, like, you know, because she's a director of a community, like she helps lead a community. She does a lot of the, you know, front door. So people looking for a community or interested in classical conversations, she does a lot of the phone calls like, hey, I'm interested. And so you're talking people through their homeschool journey and them considering joining, and they're not even recruitments to your own community. You're probably placing them with other communities.
Yeah.
But the way you would listen and speak to them and talk to them about their world and how to educate their kids and understand schedules. I was like, you know your stuff and you care deeply about people and about their journey. So I just proud of you. Think you're the best. I'm a little biased, but yeah.
Oh, he's the best too, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to add?
Thank
Stay
you for
tuned for
joining
more.
us. Yeah, I'm glad we did this. This was fun.
So you did just film a recap of our journey about a week ago. So you can catch that if you want to know how we're doing this fall. She did a little update on, what is this? This is 12th year homeschooling, but it's the fall of the 12th year. And so it's week 4 recap. You can check it out. And then like and subscribe, huh?
Totally. Thanks for joining us in our home, and I hope that your home is blessed as well. Bye. Oh, you're so sweet.